Mike DeCourcy, the man of the hour with BTN, as well as the Sporting News, pulling double duty.
How
Mr. Accuracy is what we should call him.
Oh, I wish I were more accurate this year.
67 out of 68. That's pretty damn good.
Yes, but I lost points for my. I think I only had one team that I can think of that was more than a line off, but I missed a lot of lines on the bottom seeds. I shouldn't say it that way. The committee missed a lot of lines on the bottom.
There you go.
I like it.
And I will start with Grand Canyon being a 14 seed after finishing 5th in their league. I'm sorry. No. Can I say that louder? No. They should not have been a 14 seed. They were lucky to get in. Did a good job in their conference tournament, but they finished 5th in their league. Sorry, that's not good enough. I had Kennesaw as a 15. They were a 14. I thought they really roughed up. Like Colgate hasn't lost a game since like 1932 or something, and yet they were a 15 seed. I didn't think that was a reasonable assessment of what they'd accomplished this year. So they wind up as a 15. Vermont a 15 as well. I didn't think the committee did a very good job of seeding the bottom of the bracket, but that's why my scores weren't as high this year as they were a year ago.
Well, and it seemed like on Selection Sunday, there was only maybe one gripe that I heard, and I'd like to get your take on it. Rutgers not making the tournament. It seemed
That sure seemed to be the loudest.
That seemed to be the loudest. There didn't seem to be a lot of teams where you could make a strong argument, but I think Rutgers was right on that cusp where if you're going to have a gripe, that was maybe the one. What was your take on Rutgers being left out?
I think the committee leaves out a qualified NCAA tournament team about once every 6 or 7 years, maybe 5. And this was it. This was a terrible decision, really unfair to the Rutgers players and coaches and their fans. Nevada did nothing, absolutely nothing to belong in this field. The entire Mountain West, I call it the Mountain West metric mirage. They beat nobody. And yet they got 4 teams into the tournament. San Diego State, I have great respect for their program. I didn't think they had their best year. I thought their schedule was kind of meager for what they had coming back. But they earned their way in, and they earned to a decent seed. But absolutely not in any way should they have gotten 3 teams beyond that, and certainly not the 4th, Nevada. And if you look at the bracket matrix has, I think, 200 brackets on it now, which is it's people from people like me and Palm and Lenardi, Katz and Shelby Mast and people like that, all the way down to I shouldn't say all the way down, but all the way through people who just do it for fun. And so out of those 200 brackets, I think Rutgers was in around 190 of them.
Wow.
And Nevada was in like 47, I think. So it tells you how really poorly the committee did on this one. And the worst part about the decision on Rutgers was that they judged Rutgers to have fallen off tournament quality because of their late struggles subsequent to the injury of Mawat Mag. And those struggles were real.
Mm-hmm.
And if they had gone to Chicago last week and played anything like they had played for those last 2 to 3 weeks of February, they would have deserved to be left out. And I don't think they would have argued it. If they'd gone out against Michigan and lost by 10 or 12 or 15, I don't think they would have complained. I think they would have said, yeah, well, we made a case, but we're not that team now. But they went out and they handled Michigan. I mean, they owned that game. And then they played Purdue, one of the committee. This is not my opinion, although it is. But the committee said Purdue's a number 1 seed, and Rutgers said, yeah, but we're 5 points worse than them. We are right there with them. And they left them out. They did not punish any other team in the field for player injuries. They didn't punish UCLA for the absence of Jalen Clark. They didn't punish Tennessee for the absence of Zakai Ziegler. They didn't punish Houston for the uncertainty around Marcus Sasser and his groin injury. And I don't think they should. I don't think that I was sort of at ground zero of this particular aspect of the NCAA tournament because I was the Cincinnati Bearcats beat writer in 2000 when Kenyon Martin broke his leg. I was right there. I saw everything. I reported on everything. And I wrote a column for Sporting News that night that said absolutely not. They should touch the Cincinnati #1 seed because they don't have anything to judge them by. They had 36 minutes without Kenyon, and they lost to a team that ended up winning the conference tournament and going to the tournament. If Kenyon had played that game fully and they had lost it, which is conceivable, teams lose NCAA tournament, conference tournament games lots of times. Pitt in 2011 lost. You may remember the Kemba Walker ankle break of Pitt's center. They lost the quarterfinal game. They still were a #1 seed, and they weren't as accomplished as that Cincinnati team. So if they had played and lost that game with Kenyon, they still would have been a 1. But without him, they just guessed. Committee should never guess. And then 2, that year, Arizona had a center named Lauren Woods, 7'1", was a good player his junior year that year, a much better player the following year when Arizona made the Final Four and the national championship game. Lauren Woods gets hurt with about 2 weeks left in the season. They play 4 games after Lauren's injury. They lost 2 of them. And I remember distinctly asking the committee chair that year, and then, by the way, parenthetically, Arizona's AD was on the committee. I remember distinctively asking the committee chair, why did you allow Arizona to still be a 1 with Lauren out and take out Cincinnati? And they said, well, we had a chance to evaluate Arizona without Lauren Woods. They were a 500 team. I mean, what are we doing?
Right.
So I don't think they should punish people for injuries, but they not only punished Arizona by putting them in the first 4 or something like that, they punished them by leaving them out. This committee, I'll be honest with you, this is the worst committee performance in a while, because to leave out a qualified tournament team and to misplace Kansas in the West when Houston played 6 games against high quality teams this year, and they lost 2 of them. 6 games.
And Kansas played like 21 or something.
Exactly. And Kansas lost 7 of them, I think. I think Kansas was like 14-7 in their tough games. But if you're going to judge basically on teams that win 2/3 of their toughest games, wouldn't you want the one that played more than half of their season against the tougher teams than the team that played less than, basically a 5th? I just, but the computer. Come on, man. We're better than this. Like, if Ken Palm were flawless or the net were flawless, then all the highest net ranking teams would win every game or the majority of the games. And I don't think that's what's going to happen. We'll see. Go ahead. Make out a bracket that's totally by the net or totally by Ken's rankings and see if it does better than the one that you do yourself. I just don't think that the ratings are the end all. Do you look at them and consider it? Sure. But then you say, okay, well, what's behind that? What's on the next page? Utah State, they're 20th in Ken Palm or 18th, and they're in the net and they're 18th or whatever. Okay, what's on the next page? Nothing. Blank page. Played 8 games, I believe it was, against tournament teams from their own league. They played, I believe it was, and they won 3. They're under 500 against the tournament teams from their own league, but they're a 10 seed. I mean, I just, in no way do I think the committee did a good job here. As I said, in the times I've been doing the brackets, which is only 3 years, easily the worst. And I think it goes back considerably farther than that.
Go ahead.
Well, one of the things I like to do with the brackets is, this isn't about the net, but I like to fill out one, and then I do a separate one based simply on chalk and see which one turns out best. That's one of the fun, weird things that I like to do. And we'll get back because we got a lot of Indiana fans on this listening in, tuning in. But when you look at Indiana's bracket, Mike, I think when you look at them as a 4 seed, probably one of the more favorable draws if you're looking at it from an Indiana perspective. He's surprised. He doesn't think so. I'm going to be interested to get your take. I think if you looked at how Indiana played back in January when they were winning 8 out of 9 games and you saw this draw, you would think we have a chance to go to the Final Four. Now they haven't been able to string together 2 wins consecutively really for the last month. So there's some concerns there. What's your take on Indiana's draw, the bracket? Kent State's obviously going to be a tough out.
Yeah.
But what's your take on Indiana's position right now?
Yeah, I guess I could see that. I mean, I do worry vis-a-vis the Indiana perspective about that Kent State matchup. Kent State's really good. I watched them on Saturday night in their game against Toledo, and Toledo could not stop them at all. Second half was a tight game. I think it was 1-point game at halftime. Can't remember which way. 1-point game. Second half, Kent State scores 58 points in a championship situation, in a lose and you're out position. 58 points, really impressive. That's going to be hard for the Hoosiers. I do like the fact that I think if you're going to play a 5, you've got Miami, you've got Duke, you've got St. Mary's, and you've got where's the 5th? Where's the other one? San Diego State. I don't think the 5s are very impressive teams generally relative to the rest of the league, rest of the field. Probably out of that group, San Diego State, Miami, probably tied for second. I would put St. Mary's at the end of it, and I'd put Duke easily at the top. So it could have been worse there. Houston, I think Houston has a terrific team. Don't get me wrong, but without Marcus Sasser, and I don't know what his situation is. I only know that he made a move that did not look good, and that he came up holding his thigh, and subsequently it's been explained to be a groin issue. I know what they looked like on Sunday. I know what they looked like on Sunday without him. And it was really, I mean, they were bereft. They had no idea what to do without him. Memphis is a fine team, but Memphis made them look bad. Yeah. So I don't know what to expect from them. So I guess it could be worse, but I think you start with that Kent State game, and of the 13s, that would definitely be the last one I'd want to play by far. I think Kent State is considerably better than the other 13s in the field.
Well, hopefully I'll get Michael Lewis on here, current coach at Ball State, because he knows all about those guys. He had a good year with Ball State.
He did. Did a great job.
20 wins, but damn, the top of that MAC was just brutal. It wasn't just Toledo. It was Akron and Toledo.
Yes.
Those teams they all won like 22 or 3 games or more.
Yeah, more. I think all those won.
Teams in that conference that won over 20 games.
Yeah, it's a really, really balanced league. That's why it's a great job. It's a great place to go and coach for a long time. But if your idea is I'm going to go to the MAC and I'm going to win big and then I'm going to get out of there, that's not easy. Not many do, because you can win. Like Todd Kowalczyk has had a phenomenal career there. But has never been able to get to the tournament out of Toledo. They've been good for a dozen years, and they have never been able to conquer that last game because it's so hard. Because and what's interesting about the MAC is that their good teams don't get upset in that deal. Like, their good teams are always there playing for it. It's really fascinating how that league operates. Of all the mid-major leagues, you don't see upsets in that tournament. Maybe one, somewhere along the way, but then there's 3 other just like them, and they're the ones that are playing for it on that Friday, Saturday in Cleveland.